Hi, my name is Bruce Kane, and I'm a Senior Information Developer for the BMC Remedy ITSM applications. I'd like to take a few minutes to give you a quick tour of the Archive Manager console, show you the key areas of the console, what they're used for, and help you to get oriented to this new UI. The how and the why of using the console is covered in the individual topics that you'll find documented on this page, so we won't get into that too much here. By using the Archive Manager console, you can turn the archiving process off and on, manage the individual archiving policies, and even help to manage the size of your database by exporting archived records that you no longer need. So let's take a closer look. We'll start up here at the top, in the area that controls the entire process. Using this checkbox, you can turn the entire archiving process off and on. By default, the checkbox is selected, so right out of the box, the archiving process is ready to go. If for any reason you need to turn it off, just clear the checkbox. This field controls how frequently the archiving process runs. The default value is every 24 hours. If your organization needs archiving to run more or less often, then this is where you'd come to change it. For example, if it makes more sense for your organization to archive records every 48 hours, this is where you'd make that change. Next, let's look at this middle section, where you manage the individual archiving policies. There are a number of criteria that the archiving process looks at when evaluating if a record qualifies for archiving, which are all described in the documentation. The only criterion that you can change is the age in days value. The age in days refers to how much time has passed since the record's submit date, or in the case of BMC Knowledge Management forms, when the record was last modified. As you can see, the default age in days value for most policies is 548 days, except for knowledge management policies, which default to 90 days. This means, for example, if an incident request was submitted 548 days ago and otherwise meets the evaluation criteria, it will be picked up in the next archive run. If you need to change the default age in days value, highlight the policy that you want to update, type the new value in the age in days field, then click Apply. Notice that the new value appears in the custom specified age in days column. If there's a value in both the default policy and the custom specified age in days columns, the archiving process uses the value in the custom specified column. You can also disable a policy so that records of that type are no longer included in the archiving process. For example, if you want to disable the incident management policy, ensure the policy is highlighted, then click Disable. Notice now that instead of the custom age in days number that was in the custom specified column, there is a number with a negative value. Anytime a negative number appears in this column, it means the associated policy is disabled. To re-enable the policy, just click Enable Policy. Notice now the negative number is gone. If you want to restore the previous custom age in days value, then you'll need to change the default age in days again, like we showed you earlier. If you need to run one of the archive policies outside of the regularly scheduled archiving run, you can do that from here too. Again, highlight the policy that you want to run and click Run Selected Policy Now. This bottom area is where you run an export. Running an export is one way to maintain database performance by removing records from the archive forms that have passed their retention date. There are a couple of different export operations that you can choose from, depending on your needs. You can export and delete, which writes the qualified archive records to a series of CSV files and then deletes the records from the archive forms. You can export, which writes out a series of CSV files, as above, but leaves the records in the archive forms. Or you can delete, which deletes the qualified records from the archive forms without writing them to a CSV file. Again, an age in days value determines when an archived record qualifies for the export process, but in this case, the age in days value refers to how long ago the record was archived. The value that you type here corresponds with your organization's retention policy. For example, if you are allowed to remove archived records from the archive forms after they've been archived for at least 6 months, type 180 here, that is 180 days or 6 months. Then click Export. Export runs against all of the archiving policies, so you don't need to highlight any of the policies in the table. One thing to be aware of, unlike the archiving process, the export is not automated. You need to run this process manually. I hope this video has given you a good idea of what the Archive Manager console is used for. Again, for more detailed information about how to use the console and why you might want to change some of the defaults, be sure to read the rest of the topics on this page. Thanks for watching the video.